Hey everyone, I hope the markets have been good to you this week. I'm Jake with Jake's Trades Invests. Before we jump into the charts, I just want to be sure that you understand that I am not a financial advisor, so please trade at your own risk. So let's get right into the charts. We'll start with gold. We'll zoom in here on the daily. So it looks like this week we kind of pulled back to start the week from this upper resistance zone, pulled back down, and then immediately kind of turned around and corrected and broke through the resistance zone. So that's a good sign for gold, showing some strength here. I would expect maybe a little bit of consolidation. It looks like we kind of retested this upper bounds here. So maybe some consolidation before heading higher, but gold looks good to head higher. We'll jump over to silver. Similar story in silver. It looks like we started the week with a pullback back down to this $30 range here, and then had a strong impulse back towards our resistance area overhead, and finishing the day Friday with pretty big selling candle, some selling pressure there, but overall it looks like we've got an uptrend here in the last couple of weeks to start the year. So I would expect if gold is going to continue higher, that silver will probably follow behind it pretty shortly after that. For platinum, looks like we had a strong day on Friday. We started the week with a pullback, similar to the other metals, and then had a strong day Friday. So this looks pretty good to continue higher after it bounced off its support zone here. So I would look in the next couple of weeks for platinum to continue and come back and retest this resistance area. For copper, it looks like we've had a really strong week this week. We broke out of our resistance area coming down here over the last 6 months or so, maybe 8 months. I would expect a pullback, maybe a retest of our resistance area here before heading higher, but copper is looking really strong. I would think after it pulls back and finds some buyers to step in, we would head back up towards our 4.8 to 4.9 area up here to retest that. Switching over to crude oil. Crude oil is also looking strong. As we talked about last week, we were testing our resistance area. It looks like we finally broke through it this week with some strong candles. We've had some smaller selling days to end the week here. So probably just a retest of our breakout area before heading higher. So all of our commodities are looking pretty strong, but we'll finish the commodities here with natural gas. Let me remove some of these lines here. For natural gas, we're still chopping back and forth with really large candles, but you can see that we started the week off pretty strong. We gapped really high on Tuesday, it looks like, but only to come all the way back down and fill that gap, which is expected. But as natural gas is picking up momentum here, these crazy up and down days should settle down here eventually, but for right now, it looks like people, if you're in the trades, are getting whipped back and forth. So as long as it stays above the trend line, I think natural gas is still looking strong to head higher. You just kind of have to hold on for the ride. We'll move over to our indices. So for the S&P 500, again, we're still chopping sideways. It looks like we're forming a bit of a flag pattern here. We did come down at the beginning of the week and touch our support zone that's been in place for the last year and a half or so. So we may still chop sideways a little bit. It looks like we may have broken out here. Let me put a line on there really quick. Yeah, so we're just slightly above this little trend line here, so maybe a little consolidation. We do have some gaps here that if we were to come back down, we could expect to kind of fill those, maybe another test of this support before heading higher. But with the breakout, it looks like momentum may be to the upside once this consolidation has finished up. For the Nasdaq, looks like a similar story. We haven't quite made it down to the $20,000 mark yet, but it does look like we're kind of flagging in here for right now. So maybe some more consolidation to go in the tech space. We'll see in the coming weeks if we kind of pull back. Again, I still think 20,000 would be a good psychological level to retest. We've got the support zone coming up through that level as well, and this horizontal support resistance area. So could be some more chop, maybe a bigger dip that might scare some people out of the market before heading higher. But we'll keep an eye on it in the coming weeks. For the Dow Jones, looks like we had tested this at the end of last week, I believe. We were testing the support zone, started the week strong, came out of the support area with a gap on Wednesday. So I would expect maybe a pullback to fill that gap back down into this support area, see if the support area holds before heading higher. But having this big momentum behind it looks good for the Dow to head higher. Just maybe a pullback in the next week or two to kind of gain a little more momentum and fill this gap here. For the Russell 2000, similar story to the Dow. We were testing this support zone last week, had a strong bounce on Monday and Tuesday with a gap up Wednesday. Again, I think maybe we could see that gap get filled, maybe a retest of the 2225 area down to 2200, somewhere in that area for another bounce. If it holds, could be a good buying opportunity to head higher, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens in the next week or two. And we'll finish up here with Bitcoin. Similar to the indices and to the metals, it looks like Bitcoin had a pretty strong week this week. It looks like we started the week on Monday with a drop below the support zone down to around 90,000. Maybe a false breakdown here before it shot back higher and broke out of the resistance area. So Bitcoin is looking strong in the short term for now. We may see, a rollover here to retest this $100,000 area. That's a good psychological level. So be on the lookout for maybe a pullback in the coming week or two before heading higher. But as long as the momentum is up, it looks like Bitcoin is going to head higher as well. So I appreciate everyone tuning in this week. If you find any of this analysis useful, please like, subscribe, comment, share, all of those things. And we'll see you again next week. Thanks. This has been Jake with Jake Trades and Invests.